Hi everyone, it's Claire from ScrappyNerdUK, and this is a tutorial video on how to create this caddy that I made, if that's what you want to call it. So I showed this on, I've got a mark on it already. I showed this on Instagram, and I have made one of these to be able to store my Ali Edwards kits, but they are very universal to be able to store embellishments or project life cards or whatever you need the storage for. And it's simply made out of foam board excuse me, and some bookbinding glue. So apologies if you can hear some noise in the background. Excuse me, I am right next to our utility room and the washing machine is going, so if you can hear that, apologies. But I wanted to do a live voiceover whilst I'm making this, just to show you how I created this and what I currently use this one for. I need another one because I subscribe to the story kit and the stories by the month kit, so I need another one to store the other kits in as well. So let's get cracking. Okay, so we're going to start with a piece of mount board. Now I have got this from Amazon, and these are 5mm thick, and I've actually popped a link to the one that I bought in the UK down in the description box, and there's also a .com link for an equivalent as well. So I'm just going to use this as my base, and I'm not going to cut this down because this actually works really well. Now, depending on what size foam board that you buy, did I say mount board? I meant foam board. So depending on what size that you buy will depend on whether you need to cut it down. So you want to kind of figure out how big you want it. This works really well for me, so I'm going to stick to this size. So next up, I'm going to get another sheet. This one's I've already cut into. I've got another sheet here. Now I need to cut this down to 3 inches. So that's the height of the outside of the box that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that to 3 inches. Before I go ahead and start cutting the other pieces, I'm actually going to start sticking this down because I want it a chance to start drying on here before I continue on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some bookbinding glue. So you just need some really strong glue in order to do this. You could use normal glue, normal wet adhesive for this, but I think you need something a little stronger. So one other thing as well is sometimes I find that the cut leaves me with a slight edge. This is part of the problem when you are using the foam board. So I'm just going to trim that out with some scissors, and then I'm actually going to mount this on top of my base, and this is going to go along the back edge here. So I'm just going to load it up with some bookbinding glue, which is a stronger adhesive. And then once I've got that on there, I don't know why I turned that around. If you've got a more cleaner edge, so this here you can see it's come up a little bit where I've cut it. So I'm just going to put that on the inside, and I'm going to glue that to the top of my base. So you have the option to be able to glue it to the outside edge if you'd prefer, but the size of the compartments that I need lend itself really well to gluing it to the top edge. And it also means that they're all in one piece. And I'm also using slightly less foam board. If I say mount board one more time, it's foam board that you need. It lends itself to using less because you're going around a smaller perimeter. So I'm just going to sit here for a few minutes just until this actually catches, the glue catches, and then once that has settled in, I will continue on and glue the other one down as well. back down now. They do obviously need the support in the middle, so these aren't fully dry, but I am going to continue on and create the whole thing. Now you can, between adding these in, you can wait to let them dry fully before you go on to the next bit, the sides or the insert. But for me, I'm just going to get it all stuck for the purposes of this video. So those are the front and the back ones done. Next up, we need another bit of foam board. So this is actually going to go inside between these two boards. So I'm going to just have a look. Actually, this is cut nice and cleanly, so it doesn't really matter where I glue. So I'm just going to add my wet glue to, oops. And I really wouldn't worry about being such a perfectionist with this. You're going to get glue. And more so when we do the sides as well, because you're going to need to glue the sides on. So they attach. You're going to have a little bit of wet glue spilling out, but you can always just wipe it away, so I wouldn't worry too much about being too much of a perfectionist. So those are in, and I'm just going to push on. I'm going to push on the top to push it down, and then I'm going to push on the sides just so it connects. And that glue sets. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Okay, so I now have the two sides on to the box, and it is still slightly tacky, so it's not fully dried yet, but as I said, for the purposes of the video, I'm just going to continue on and show you how to complete this with the insides. So for me, as I said, I'm just going to bring this box back in here. For me, it was the storage that I needed for my Ali Edwards kit. So you can adjust this to whatever is going to work for you. So I'm just going to take some of these bits out. I don't want to go messing around because they're all in specific order. So basically, I have created these little dividers inside, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 either side. So that means I'm going to need 5 of the dividers. So these are the width of the inside of from the left to the right, and that's also going to give you a lot more rigidity for the box as well. So I'm going to need 5 pieces of this, and I'm also then going to need an extra piece that is the splitter in the middle, which we'll come to. So I'm going to trim these down. Now I've done them so they are at a lower height than the outside edge of the box, and I can't remember what height I did these at, but let's have a little look. I think they are maybe about 2.5 inches roughly. So you can customize them and do them at whatever height suits you and is going to work for you. You can do them at the same height as the outside of the box, but it's really not necessary unless you're storing something that's super tall. Then 2.5 inches should be sufficient for this. So it's that's just 1/2 inch lower than the outside edge of the box anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same technique as what I've already done. I'm going to measure out how wide I need my inserts and then cut them all to 2.5 inches ready to glue them inside. So I'm going to go ahead and do the cutting, and then I'll be right back. So now I've trimmed down 5 pieces of the foam board. I'm then going to stick them in. So you could mark your sections off with a ruler, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to start with the middle one and then I'll add in the 2 outer ones. So I might give myself just a centre mark so that can get me going. So that is going to be what are we, just under 8 inches, so 4. So here's my very rough centre mark to start with the middle one. And I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to look for the most finished edge to glue to have that showing, and then any dodgy edges, I'll have those glued down. So again, I'm going to glue 3 sides. So I'm just going to pop across some of this bookbinding glue and on the edges. And this can be quite messy because obviously you're getting it into a space that is just going to push that glue out. But what I'm going to do actually is just also mark the center point the other side as well, so this is nice and straight. I've lost my pencil, so I should use the edge of my scissors, and I'm not too worried that I've made a couple of little dents in the foam there. So I'm just going to pop this in. The glue is going to push up and go everywhere, but we're going to wipe it down afterwards, so don't worry too much about it. So I'm going to push that right to the bottom. Make sure that connects with the base because we want to make sure this is nice and strong. And then just having a look just to make sure that that is nice and straight this way, so it's not leaning to the left or the right. And then you don't really need to sit and hold this down because the box should be holding it in. And then I'm just going to use my fingers here to wipe up the excess glue that's on the side. You might notice I've now got a plaster on my finger, whereas I didn't when I started this video. So be careful with your trimmers. They have a sharp blade on. So yeah, I'm just going to give this a little wipe down. So there'll be excess glue at the bottom here as well where it's pushed out. So I'm just going to get rid of some of that. And it's not going to be seen at the bottom anyway, because obviously you're going to have your supplies in there. So don't worry too much about it. So my compartments are going to be quite small for this, which works for me. Now, if it's a case that actually you want 4 or 2 this size, I wouldn't put anything that's too heavy in the box. I mean, this is quite weighty, to be fair, all of the bits that are in here. And this works, and I've not had any issues with splitting or anything like that. So, but just be very mindful of what you are putting in. So if you're going to be putting things like stickers, then if you're going to put sticker sheets, then ensure that you probably want the sides a bit higher, because otherwise they'll just flop over. But if you're going to be putting smaller sticker sheets, then this would work really well. You could have just 4 compartments instead. So you could skip over the next bit with me adding these in, and then I'll show you how I made the divider for it as well. And if you want smaller compartments and you want 3 across, you can use the same technique again. So I'm just going to go ahead and get all of these glued in for now. So I've now glued in my 5 inserts, so those are now glued in, and I'm going to be very careful again because it is slightly tacky still. So next up, I'm just going to make the insert, the divider, and then this is complete. So same technique again. I've got an offcut here, which actually isn't too far away from the size it actually needs to be. So I'm just going to mark this just with my pencil, and you could use a ruler to mark this out. So I'm just taking the inside measurements from the front to the back, bringing in my trimmer here, and I'm just going to mark this up with a T-square so I get a nice straight line to cut. And then I'm going to go all the way around just so I've got a guide on the back as well. Like this. I'm going to trim this out. And trim and snap. And then trim this out on the back also, and that should come off nicely. Sometimes you are going to get a little bit of an edge because it is foam you're working with. I'm just going to trim that off. Okay, so now I've got my insert. I think I'm going to have this probably close to the 3-inch mark, the height for it, or just under, should I say, because I don't want it to be as high as the sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark myself. I'm probably going to go 2 and let me just think about this, because it doesn't need to go all the way down. So I might actually go, I'll probably go maybe 2 3/4. Divider bit ready. So this is where things get slightly less measured, and but you're not gonna, and it's gonna look a bit of a mess when it's all cut up, I will warn you, but once it is in here, you are not going to see it, so really don't worry about that. So what you need to do is pop this in. So that should fit nicely front to back and give that a bit more stability again. And I'm just going to mark to the left and the right of each of my inserts. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be precise, it just needs to be wide enough so that when this goes back in, it's going to slot and sit over all of these. So I've just marked myself, and this is where I'm going to mark out a little channel that I need to cut. Oh, that's Netflix playing to itself. And I'm going to mark it along here, and I'm going to tell myself that I'm going to just do a really light pencil line, because this will be seen inside. And then what I'm going to do is just, you can use a ruler or you can just freehand it, is I'm going to give myself some cut marks to come in, and I'm going to use scissors for this, so a nice sharp pair of scissors. And I suggest smaller ones are better, so you can really get the scissors in there. So I'm going to mark up these cut marks, and then I'm going to go and trim out all of these areas here. So these 5 areas, I'm just going to use my scissors and trim up. This is where I said it's going to get a little messy, because the coating on the foam board does start to snap and buckle. So I'm going to do that, and then what I do is I use a little craft knife just to slit the end. It's much easier to do it that way. So now this is just putting it together. I'm not going to glue this in. I didn't glue the last one in, and then that enables me to be able to move it around if I choose to change this for storage or something else that might be a bit wider. So let me just take a little bit off this so it's not poking out the top. This is just me being a complete perfectionist. Well, not so much, but I don't want this bit sticking out any higher than the edges are already. So I should have thought about this. Right, so let's just, I'm just going to use my scissors to do this bit, because I think trying to flip that over on the trimmer, I think I'm just going to potentially give myself a really rough edge, which is what I don't want. So I can just then tidy this up a little bit with just some scissors. Okay, now this should work. So back in one last time, here we are. So now that's going to slide straight in, and that's going to sit just underneath the edges here. They don't go all the way to the bottom, so if you are storing anything that you will maybe sort of go between compartments, you might want to make sure that your measurements for this go all the way to the bottom. Mine don't, and I just had that off cut there, so I'm not really fussed about needing to cover or make sure that the divider goes all the way to the bottom. And you don't need a divider. You could use this to make a letter storage system or anything you want. So if you want something to be able to store something wider, then you don't need the divider bit. But for me, the divider is here because of my kits. So I'm going to grab my kits. I currently have them sat in one of these, which is a makeup storage system, but there's one big compartment and 3 small, and it really doesn't work. So this is exactly why I wanted this. So now I have my story kit from Ali Edwards in one box, and I have my Stories by the Month kit in another box. So these are identical storage units now, and this size actually fits in a Kallax cube, the Kallax from IKEA, and I can actually fit both front to back like that in one Kallax cube. Which makes me so happy. I will be labelling these boxes as well, so I'll be adding vinyl to the front. On the front here, I'm going to have Stories by the Month and the story kits both labelled. And this is it. So I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. It has been requested quite a few times, as I've mentioned when I posted it on Instagram. So I'm hoping that if you are looking for a storage solution that's going to work for you, but you can't find anything that's going to fit for you specifically, or B, that's so expensive sometimes, that you can buy a pack of mount board and some strong glue and just make your own. So thank you very much for joining me today. If you have enjoyed today's tutorial, I would appreciate it if you gave the video a massive thumbs up. If you are new here, then please be sure to subscribe to my channel. Leave me any comments in the comments section down below if you've got any questions about this or any questions just in general, then leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll see you all next time for another video. Bye.